we're going to stand our ground. We are stood up at the gates of hell. That's exactly where we're at. And we're not going to back down. We're going to tell the truth. So we're going to roll into this little vignette now that I'm going to see distributed to tens of thousands of party participants. And it's a reaction clip to the recent bill. And for those of you that are seeing me for the first time, my name is David Penn. This is the Professor Penn Podcast. We're a political action podcast. We're here to bring together people from all communities throughout the United States, but specifically starting here in Minnesota, to affect the kind of change that will guarantee the lives of our children and to bring about the kind of well-being for the American people that they really seek, with the belief that our leadership, for whatever reason, has lost touch with its roots. And unfortunately, sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect between we the people and the people that we elect to represent us. Tanner, could you play this piece here from Representative Emmer on ABC?
Republican Congressman Tom Emmer for more on this. Jay?
Yeah, Diane, this is the man in charge of counting all of those votes. Majority Whip Tom Emmer, and I want to ask you, Congressman, as you look at the playing field as we go into that vote tonight, will this bill pass?
Oh, yeah.
No question.
Pass. No question.
With a majority of Republicans supporting it?
We actually whipped for 218 Republicans, as you and I were talking before we came on air. Our goal is to make sure that every Republican votes for this bill. And
what are you telling those 30-plus Republicans who have said, under no circumstances will they vote for this?
Listen, this happens with every piece of legislation that comes through the House. Some people will get out early, voicing their displeasure based on things they've heard, based on things that they've been told. Once they start to read the legislation, once we start to have conversations, in this case, you're talking about a $2.1 trillion cut. This is the single largest deficit reduction bill in the history of this country. I think every Republican should be voting for it.
But if you lose those 30, you're relying on Democratic votes to try to pass this, right? And are you talking to Democrats to make sure there are enough votes on that side of the aisle?
We are counting on Republicans to pass this bill.
But if they're not there, how can you be so confident that the Democrats will back you up if you're not having conversations with them?
Listen, I don't count Democrats. We are here to make sure that Republicans understand what is involved and that they're all comfortable with the bill and they can vote for it. Our goal is to have 218 Republicans or more.
I know you were just in with Speaker McCarthy earlier this morning. Last night you were whipping votes. You were whipping votes into this morning. How can you describe his attitude to all of this? What's his level of confidence like?
The Speaker is in a great mood. The Speaker is, I think I used the words with you earlier that he's on fire today. He's calling members, he's having members in, he's answering questions. It's all very positive.
And going forward, if this passes tonight, and I know we're reading tea leaves here, but how do you think that that impacts Kevin McCarthy with the overall conference?
Listen, when we pass this tonight, we are going to continue to be successful by moving into the appropriations process, which is the next step. Republicans ran their campaigns last fall to win, but once you win, you have to govern. And Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans are the only ones who have literally been governing since the beginning of the year. The White House wouldn't even get involved in these discussions until after we passed a debt ceiling bill that would protect us from a default. And then it even took them 3 weeks to get off their rear end and actually have substantive conversations. In the Senate, my goodness, Chuck Schumer and the Senate have been asleep at the wheel and gone. I think the most significant thing they've done in the first 5 months is name March Maple Syrup Month. I mean, Kevin McCarthy has been leading this conference. Republicans have been governing, and you're going to see more of that after this vote tonight.
Of that vote of 30 possible no votes, though, there are some who say that they don't trust the Speaker after this. Are you worried about them going forward?
Again, I think there's a lot of emotion that's built up over the last 5 months. Sometimes it gets directed at, for instance, a speaker as opposed to where it's actually coming from. In this case, I think our members are very frustrated with an administration that has been wholly incompetent, has caused double-digit inflation, has caused all kinds of problems, and we're going to risk a default. And here we are on a week where we're supposed to be at home working our districts. We are back in Washington, D.C. to try and clean up a mess that Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer have created. And I think that's where some of the emotion comes. Republicans are going to be good. We're going to get this passed tonight.
That's where I got to leave it. Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate your time. Diane, that was Congressman Tom Emmer, confident that this bill will pass.
I want to be very generous as I can be, because governing is very complex. And what I want to demand of my representative, not my personal representative, but I'm in Minnesota. I'm in CD3. Representative Emmer is from CD6. And he's a big leader of the Minnesota Republican Party, and he has a lot of support here, which means a lot of people like to be lied to. And I want to change that. I want the American people, if we're going to grow the engagement of the Republican Party in the United States of America, in Minnesota, we're going to have to start to be honest. And this was a very political piece, and we're going to play more of the representative's explanation of this bill. But he was making a big deal about it was going to pass, and that he's whipping for 218 Republican votes. That's great. Super. Got 149. They were alluding to the fact that there would be 30 resistors. There were 71 Republicans. 71 Republicans. 71 representatives. These are the people closest to the American citizens, the people we meet, the people we see at the local festivals, the people that come and talk to us at the VFW hall, the guy that we can, or the gal that we can call up and talk to their staffs. 71 of these people, 71 voted against this bill. Why was that? Let's delve into that and understand it. And let's understand that this was a bill passed in a Republican House. It passed because of 165 Democrat votes. Only 149 Republicans supported this bill. This bill passed because of Democrat support. What does that mean? Well, on the one hand, because we talk a lot about polarity on the Professor Penn podcast, on the one hand, we have bipartisanship, and that is often touted as the goal of American governance. And from time to time, all the time, it is. But we also have a uniparty, where it doesn't matter if it's the Republican Party or the Democrat Party that is proposing legislation, the outcome is the same. And that's what this bill was all about. That's what we're delving into today. Behind me, you can see a link to the debt ceiling bill itself. If you click this link, it's going to take you right to the bill. And I urge you to try to read it. It's 99 pages. What you're going to find out is it's not readable. Now, for all of you that would like to get into the game of politics, and I urge you to, and you want to start to be able to read these bills without being an attorney or a multi-decade legislative attorney, because this is very dense stuff, you start by reading federalregister.gov. You go every day to the federalregister.gov, where our government publishes every day everything that was important yesterday, except for top secret. You don't get the top secret in there, obviously, but everything that can be published for public record goes into the federalregister.gov. The Senate has a portal. The House has a portal. We need to read these bills. We need to know what's in them. And what we're going to find out is, if you click this link, you're not going to understand this bill. I'm going to tell you right now. Even if you're an attorney, you're not going to understand this bill without doing a lot of research, because it references legislation that goes back to 1974. It's building on an architecture of budget actions that goes back for decades. So to really understand the bill, you got to put some time into it. And hey, let's give it a whirl. And it might piss you off as a Republican Party officer if you went in and you click this, or as an American citizen, and you realize the legislation cannot be understood by the American people. What kind of scam is that? But thank goodness our Congress, in its wisdom, because it is wise from time to time, established something called the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO. And the CBO takes these links to these bills and distributes it amongst its attorneys, and they read the bill and they interpret it for, not for we the American people, but for the Congress. And we're going to talk about the CBO's response to this legislation. But I want to, just before we go to the actual legislation itself, start talking about the truth. You know, when you're playing poker, you look for what's called a tell, because when people are lying, they usually can't hold it inside themselves. A real good poker player has what's called a poker face. They don't let you know when they're lying. They're very good at it. But in this particular bit, I think there's something about the 218 Republicans that are going to support this bill. You know, that was kind of a wishful thinking. Tanner, let's just play this little piece on this loop so we can see the tell.
But if you lose those 30, you're relying on Democratic votes to try to pass this, right? And are you talking to Democrats to make sure there are enough votes on that side of the aisle?
We are counting on Republicans to pass this bill.
You're relying on Democratic votes to try to pass this, right? And are you talking to Democrats to make sure there are enough votes on that side of the aisle?
We are counting on Republicans to pass this bill. We are counting on Republicans to pass this bill. We are counting on Republicans to pass this bill.
Thank you, Tanner. You know, part of being a politically activated and motivated person is reading the tells. That's kind of a tell. I've highlighted it. I've taken it out of context. But I think the representative knew that there wasn't 218 votes, nowhere close to that. He was just painting a picture. And that's okay. We're all telling stories. It's just when it doesn't come out the way you're fencing it, generally speaking, nobody ever holds anybody accountable. That's what we're going to start to do. We're going to hold our elected officials accountable within these parties and bring about a higher level of honesty. Honesty attracts people. Lies repels people. So, he did say something in that interview. He said, I don't count the votes. No, he doesn't. That's the honest part. There's a House Minority Whip. Her name is Catherine Clark. She's a Democratic Party superstar, and we all need to watch her because in the years to come, she'll be emerging from anonymity to great prominence. She's very good, and it seems to me, my feeling is, I don't have any 8x10 glossies, but I think when Representative Emmer guaranteed the bill was going to pass, he knew how it was going to pass. He just didn't count the votes himself. So, go look at the bill. You're going to get frustrated. Can't read it. And you notice in that bit, Representative Emmer is touting the fact that Representative McCarthy is leading and the Republicans are governing. And this goes back to my comment about tug of war. They're going to govern a lot better when we tug on them a lot harder. How do we tug on them? Please tell us the truth, Representative. We want the truth. Now we're going to start talking about the truth. Okay? This is very critical. Representative Emmer does a very good job of redirecting anger, which is aimed at the Republican Party leadership, and redirecting it back at the Biden administration and talking about how incompetent they are and how they've created double-digit inflation. That's the hot button. Inflation. We've got to quit spending so much money. We got to quit borrowing so much money. It's causing inflation. It's causing inflation. And, Representative Emmer is happy to blame that on the Democrat. But really, that's not what happened here. That's the problem. So let's take a look at this this next explanation that we got from the representative that was banging around inside the party the last few days.
A lot of people are asking about the debt ceiling vote. A lot of people are questioning whether it was a good deal or a bad deal, or whether they should be happy, upset. Look, the debt ceiling deal, we all agreed we were not going to vote for a clean debt ceiling. I've never voted for a debt ceiling increase. We've got to get the spending in this country under control.
Can you stop, please? Representative Emmer said he's never voted for a debt ceiling increase. And I went back and looked at his votes, and he's telling the truth, and I appreciated that. And, everything is a mixed bag. But when I look back at the votes, and I went back through many debt ceiling votes, many people in the Republican Party did vote to increase the debt ceiling. So we got a very interesting game going on here. Please continue.
A bill more than a month ago that literally is the wish list for Republicans. If we could get it, it will really help this country. Unfortunately, right now we control 1/3 of the federal government. The first step is to make sure that we got the best deal we could. I can tell you there were a couple of people negotiating it. I can't say that they could have done better. I can't say we could have done better than they did. But what they gave us back was a bill that did this. According to the CBO, it's a $2.1 trillion cut. The single largest deficit reduction bill in the history of this country. It also has an end to the
Stop
Joe
it, please.
Biden.
Okay, time to get down to a little truth-telling before we go back to the congressman. 2.1 trillion cut. Yes, the potential for that exists in the bill. It's there. I think the actual cut that is certain is like 35 billion, not 2-point-something trillion. And for those of you who don't know it, because this is a little bit beyond human understanding, you take $100 bills and you stack them. You stack them up. $1 billion gets up to like the top of the tallest building in the world. Like the top of the IDS Center, if you're a Minnesotan. $1 trillion, $100 bill stacked up goes up 653 miles. It's twice as high as a space station. So there's a big difference between $1 billion and $1 trillion. So what he's saying is there's 2.1 trillion in cuts. Actually, there's only about 30 billion in actual guaranteed cuts. The 2.1 trillion is possible, but predicated on future congressional action. They're not cuts. They're possible cuts. And those cuts will only happen if future Congresses, future convening of our elected representatives vote to actually implement the suggested cuts. Now, come on. Come on. If past performance is any predictor of future outcomes, very unlikely we're going to get those cuts. It's possible. And as the congressman is going to say, elections have consequences. Let's continue.
Student loan repayment pause. Because as soon as the Supreme Court determines his illegal student loan cancellation as unconstitutional, we were all concerned that those people would then be under his pause and they wouldn't be repaying their loans. Under this bill, that's going to start in about 60 days. It'll be $5 billion a month that will be coming in. We also clawed back billions of dollars of unobligated, unspent COVID funds. We got permitting reform that everyone in the oil and gas industry will tell you is incredibly necessary. People who just build construction projects will tell you you could take a highway from taking 7 years to construct down to 1 or 2. That's huge. And then we did get work requirements when it came to certain welfare benefits like food stamps, SNAP benefits. Able-bodied, working-aged adults without dependents up to the age of 55 should go to work if they can. They should at least be trying to do that. This could have a dramatic impact on not just our workforce, but on people's self-esteem and their ability to create a better life for themselves and their family. Lastly, it's a 99-page bill. You got 15 pages of rescissions, including money that the CDC sends to the World Health Organization, which, by the way, goes to China. We got rid of this stuff. And look, I know my friends in the Freedom Caucus...
Well, could you stop it, please? If you just want to think for a second the way he said China, was that a little bit reminiscent of Donald Trump, the way Donald Trump says China? Just a little bit of wizardliness here from Rep. Emmer. Please continue.
The way it's not all of them. I mean, Jim Jordan voted with me. He agreed with this. Marjorie Taylor Greene voted with me. Mark Green from Tennessee voted with me. Thomas Massey voted with me. Warren Davidson voted with me. The list goes on and on because they recognized what the issue is. The issue is this is the first step. We wanted more. We all wanted more. And that's my Freedom Caucus guys. My friend Chip Roy, he wanted a lot more. All right, well, we have 1/2 of 1/3 of the federal government. This is the first step. For the first time, we are cutting spending, not raising spending. Second, we got to go after the appropriations process hard. And I haven't even told you that an idea that I've had for the last 2 Congresses that Thomas Massey joined me in actually is included in the deal. It says that if you don't pass 12 appropriations bills through the House, through the Senate, across the President's desk before midnight on September 30th, which, by the way, has not happened since 1994, then you will have a brief CR till the end of the year. And if you still haven't gotten those bills done on January 1st of the following year, you go a 1% 10% cut across all of government. That is huge in order to get this thing under control. So, look, at the end of the day, we all wanted more, but you first do this, then you go after the appropriations process hard, which we may now have an appropriations process because of the Emmer Massey bill that's in this vote we took yesterday. And then guess what? The news, just like Minnesota, we got to win in 24. Elections have consequences. You want to get that bill that we passed back a month ago? We got to have a president, we got to have the Senate, we got to expand our majority in the House. We do that, we will be able to fix this country. So remember, the enemy is not within our group. The adversary's on the other side of the aisle. We've got to stop the radical left from destroying this country. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you have any more for me, you can always call me. You can always text. Check our website. Give us a call in the office.
That's good enough. Thank you, Tim. I want to be very careful about how I talk about this because this is very complex. And it's not a simple. It's not a simple situation. A lot about a lot of things that the congressman is talking about, I resonate with. It is a first step. They may have gotten the best deal that they can get. And, he was saying the enemy is this radical left. No, they're not the enemy. The enemy is the center. It's the business model that's running this country into the ground. And that's what I really want to object to and bring to your attention as a fellow activist and as a fellow American citizen. Number one, the $2.1 trillion. Behind me, you're going to see there's a link to the Congressional Budget Office letter that reviews this bill. What is the Congressional Budget Office? The CBO was established under the Congressional Budget Act of 1974. The CBO provides objective, nonpartisan information to support the budget process and to help the Congress make effective budget and economic policy. The CBO aims for its analysis to be timely, rigorous, insightful, and clearly explained. Okay, so this office, the CBO, was set up because these bills are so complex, the Congress people can't read them. In other words, if you were an insurance agent from, northern Minnesota, and by some quirk of fate you found yourself elected to the U.S. Congress, how are you going to understand these bills? You're not. You're not going to understand them unless you're going to sit down and put a lot of your personal time into steeping yourself in the legalese and the history of this legislation. So the Congress set up this CBO to give a summary. It's nonpartisan. And if you think about it, is it really nonpartisan? Who's in this CBO? Who appointed them? It's probably not nonpartisan. But one of the nice things about our government is there are people who try to fulfill their mission because they kind of function as priests. They're the people that are responsible for we the people and our representatives getting the actual facts. And look at this link. You can go look at this letter yourself that the CBO sent to Representative Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House. And, they just say right in there, mandatory spending would on net decrease by $10 billion and revenues would on net decrease by $2 billion over the period of the bill, which is 2023 to 2033. And the agency's projections of budget deficits would be reduced by $1.5 trillion over that same period. And if it was actually to come down that way, interest would go down by close to $200 billion. So what Representative Emmer is saying has some truth in it. The problem is it's not mandatory. It's not really a cut. It's an outline of what cuts might look like. And the CBO alludes to that. At your request, the budgetary totals in this letter include information beyond that provided in the CBO's cost estimates, which typically are used for budget enforcement and are prepared under long-standing principles agreed to by the legislative and executive branches. For the total deficit effects, this letter includes effects on projections of discretionary spending and interest on the public debt measured relative to the CBO's baseline that ordinarily would not be part of a cost estimate. In other words, they cooked the books for us. They cooked the books. They just did. Read the letter for yourself. Don't take Professor Penn's word for it. Please go take a look at it yourself. This cut depends on future legislation. It's not a cut. It's not a cut. So we're selling something to the American people that's, really not real. And what did they really do? I'll read it to you. Division D of H.R. 3746 would suspend the debt limit through January 1, 2025. On January 2nd, the debt limit will be raised by the amount of the obligations incurred up to that point. That's what really happened. Not talking about what might happen with cuts. What really happened is they've given the Biden administration an unlimited credit facility to run the debt up to any number they deem they want to. And of course, what the Republicans are going to do is they're going to say, oh, the Biden administration ran the debt up. We didn't. But if inflation is what is the most important issue of the day, and we are, as American citizens, being devastated by the degradation of our currency, by the defilement of our currency, which is caused by the printing of money, by expanding the supply of money. And we're giving the government of the Biden administration, and we hate all these policies allegedly. And this inflation is terrible, but we've given them a blank check. That would be we, the Republican Party. We, the people, have said, we've spoken through our elected representatives, if they want to spend $20 trillion in the next 2 years, there's nothing stopping them. They've got legislation that gives them an unlimited power to borrow more money. Okay, let's just be honest about it. Let's not talk about $2.1 trillion of possible cuts. Let's talk about unlimited power to borrow. That's what's happened. 2 years. 2 years of unlimited borrowing, and that's just going to increase the inflation, increase the pressure on the American people. And I'm also very sensitive to all the things the congressman said. Yes, it's a first step. It might have been the best deal that this group of people can get. But if we, the people, continue to place more pressure on our elected representatives, if we demand fiscal responsibility, if we demand maintaining a republic, because what's going to happen if this currency fails, we're going to be a communist country. And, it doesn't matter why they're agreeing to this on the Republican side. Some of them may say they're Republicans. They might actually be communists. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me if they're lying and they're malevolent or they're just incompetent. It doesn't matter. The outcome is the same. We have to step on the gas. We have to apply pressure on every representative to tell the truth. That's where we start. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but please, Representative Emmer, come out and tell us the truth. The best you could get is a possible $2 trillion in cuts based on future circumstances, and we're just going to have to deal with the government having an unlimited checkbook that we, the people, have now approved. That's my reaction. I'm very unhappy about it because I understand what it means. And I'm asking you to click these links, go read this stuff for yourself. This is only going to change when we put the time into it. If we don't put the time, why would we call ourselves political activists when we don't do politics? The next chicken wing party or the next get-together to raise a little bit of money is not politics. Politics is rebranding this party and developing a product that we can go out and sell to the American people. We have to be different than the supposed radical left. And what does the radical left want? An unlimited checkbook to break the system. And we just gave it to them. So this is the Professor Penn podcast. If you've never seen me before, you're more than welcome to come follow me. I'm everywhere. We're ubiquitous. We're here to do one thing: focus on politics that bring about enhanced human well-being. We want to get by the arguments that have dogged us since 1973, and we know that the first step to a healthier, more well country is tell the truth. Tell the truth. So we're going to stay after these people, and we're going to force them with continuous feedback, and they might turn out to be just great. Let me just say one other thing you can check on before I sign off. There's many fact-checking organizations. Go to factcheck.org. It's a leftist organization. it takes a look at what's happening in Congress. I don't want to leave you before I send you to factcheck.org. I'm going to just read a couple of their highlights. This deal would suspend the debt limit until January 1, 2025, at which point the Treasury Department would reset the limit at whatever amount the government spending would be then. That's not from me. That's from a leftist organization. They're quite happy about it. And they go on. The CBO assumes the proposed caps will be adhered to over 10 years. However, there are mandatory caps for only 2 years. Caps in the other years are non-binding and subject to the Congressional appropriations process. The Penn-Wharton budget model estimated that the legislation would reduce federal spending, not including interest spending, by about $1.3 trillion over 10 years, but the reduction could be as little as $234 billion or as much as $1.8 trillion, depending on whether Congress enforces discretionary spending caps in the last 8 years of that budget window. Okay, thank you very much for listening. You can find me out there. We're going to keep working away at holding our elected leaders accountable. And with honesty, truth, justice, that's the American way. Thank you very much.